tiny little bit off off the nano loop, just so we can hear how powerful it is, and then we'll watch a little special on Pixel.
What is the nano loop again?
The nano loop is a step sequencer.
All right.
It's a 16-step sequencer, although it can be, you can write in different time signatures if you want.
But is it also a synthesizer as well, or do you have to pull?
Yeah, it's called. It originates in what's called chiptune music, which a large portion, like people were writing music on like old Commodore 64s, like after they became severely retro, people would use them to write music on them, and where you basically use that existing chipset that had a really specific like low-grade sound to it. And then also part of that early movement, people used the big massive gray Game Boys. I'm sure that you've seen those. And so the first thing that Nano Loop made was, and also the first thing that Pixel Hate made was the keyboards for the old Game Boy. Pixel Hate, you basically did the same thing. You used the start, select, and up, down, left, right, and AB to have the eight positions of the chord. And with so Pixel Hate focused on a keyboard that you actually had to physically play, right? If you wanted a sound to come out of it, you had to hit a button to make the sound, which is pretty cool because like there's something about people choosing when a sound comes in, except as opposed to like a step sequencer sort of like picking the next rhythm. Although I would say the new Nano Loops have sort of gone way beyond sort of a real like steppy sort of electronic vibe, and they've gotten really, really expressive, which you'll be able to hear in a sec. So the early Nano Loop was also made for the Game Boy, also using that early chipset, which was 8-bit. So at that time, like the chiptune, and still to this day, is sort of like really into this idea of 8-bit sound. Do I have any 8-bit instruments up here? No, I don't. I have, these are 16-bit devices from the get-go. I couldn't really get 8-bit sound out of them if I wanted. They'll sort of emulate 8-bit sound. I mean, this has got sort of like a nice fuzziness, but if you listen to any 8-bit device, you'll find that they're super crunchy. Like it's sort of a acquired taste on a certain level. So these guys have been making. I've been designing sound for a long time. The interesting thing about the Nano Loop guy, Oliver Wichow, is each device he makes, like I also have Nano Loop for my phone, and each device he makes, he utilizes the capacity of the new device. So if you're playing Nano Loop on a Game Boy, it sounds completely different than Nano Loop on a DS, which sounds completely different than Nano Loop on the phone, because he takes into consideration what the capability of the new device is, So I can't really call it chiptune, even though that's definitely its origins. So that's why I'm trying to like push out this idea of battery-powered music, because it also says BPM, which is like a term used often in electronic music. So I think that's sort of cute. So anyway, let's listen to let's listen to this track I called Albina that's written on the Nano Loop. And just real quick, it's sort of hard to explain, but so often in a traditional step sequencer, you have 16 steps. So a musical phrase, or a bar is broken up into 16 steps, right? So we have 1/16, right? So you have each step represents a 16th of a step through a bar, right? So the interesting thing that Oliver has done in the Nano Loop that sort of actually blows away some $500, like you can go get a Korg Electric, which is like a nice like groove box that lots of people play. It's heavily used right now. But everything you write in it, all is going to resolve at the same time. So like if you write a drum track, every drum that you write out is going to resolve at the end of 16 steps. Your melodies are going to resolve at the end of 16 steps. So everything on that whole device, once you write everything out, it's like, every bar, it goes back to the beginning, back to the beginning, back to the beginning. The thing that Oliver has figured out on the Nano Loop is you can actually technically slow down the step of different instruments. So you can slow things down so they actually take 8 bars to resolve. And that creates some interesting stuff. So you can write a drum line that's resolving every bar, every 16 steps. You can write a bass line that's resolving every 8 bars. You can write a melody that's resolving every 4 bars or every 2 bars. And then so what happens is when you play it, you start getting these like relationships that are changing every bar and creates a much more musical feel. With that in mind, let's hear what it sounds like. And so there's 2 ways of, this is just the first loop of the first sequence, so you can fire all sequences at once, or you can change one at a time. So now I'm going to just take the bass line, move to a new bass line, and then back to the old bass line. Then I'm going to change everything. Change everything again. One thing. So now we'll just move the noise. You'll hear what sort of sounds like a drum will change. Side chaining effects